Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 340. Leon Black's problems are just beginning. Recently, we've been talking about Leon Black and the situation that he finds himself in due to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And we're not talking about somebody who ran into him at the supermarket where they talked about what they were eating for lunch. We're talking about somebody who was connected to Epstein financially, personally, professionally, and every other way you can possibly imagine. And now that people are starting to understand what really went on, and people are starting to see the sort of thing that was hidden by the legacy media for so long, and people are sick to their stomach over it. We talked about how Leon Black and Apollo Global were going to suffer serious consequences from investors, and that most certainly has started to occur. Recently, we talked about how the private pension plan has decided not to put any more money into Apollo Global for now. And we also talked about how another capital company is steering clients away and telling them to just hold off on putting more money in with Apollo. So this is having serious repercussions for Leon Black and Apollo Global. And as more information becomes public, it's just going to get worse, in my opinion, because this man has no excuse. This man has no reason for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. This article today is from Bloomberg. Headline: Apollo faces growing investor revolt over Black's Epstein ties. So this is going to add context to the article we read recently about Leon Black when this all started to first break. It's important that we add as much context to situations like this as possible, right? So that they can't wiggle off of the hook. This article was authored by Melissa Karsh, Jillian Tan, and Heather Perlberg. It keeps getting worse for Leon Black. Yes, it does. As the documents keep coming, folks, it's going to get worse. And if he gets exposed as somebody who perhaps was involved in some shady business dealings with Jeffrey Epstein, it's going to be an absolute bomb on the financial world. Any of these guys, him, Jess Staley, Glenn Dubin, if any of them get tied and connected to Epstein financially and get hit with their own criminal charges, it will send shockwaves through the financial world, and it will really go to show these banksters, these financiers, and the rest of them that they are not above the law. Over the past week, Black's giant investment firm, Apollo Global Management Incorporated, has confronted one question after another about his decades-long relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Well, they've confronted one question after another, but they haven't answered any, have they? Oh, well, we have a private firm coming in to take a look at us. Well, you know, according to Leon, Apollo never did any business with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't buy that either. I have a funny feeling that when the digging begins, that it will be established that Jeffrey Epstein was not only quote-unquote advising Leon Black, but he also had some say in investments in Apollo, I'm sure. Just like he had the keys to the car for Wexner. First, his own board ordered an external review prompted by Black himself. Then, a Pennsylvania pension fund paused new investments, and the state of Connecticut has done the same. So there's the add-on, right? We knew about Pennsylvania, but now Connecticut is also on board. So, again, it's getting worse for this guy. It's growing, it's mushrooming, and it's not going to be pretty. One major consultant, a gatekeeper of $160 billion, with a B, of investor commitments, has urged clients to hold off, and another is considering taking similar action. It's going to be a lot more than just a few, and I'm sure just about everybody that has their money parked with Apollo is kicking the tires on a conversation at the very least about moving that money elsewhere. And now I know that there are all kinds of stipulations when you park your money with one of these sorts of firms. But these people that we're talking about here with public pensions, I mean, imagine a police pension tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, that looks real good. So they're going to be real cautious about doing business with these guys. And I would not be shocked to see a lot more of this in the future. Like I said earlier, these guys are going to be running for the hills when this information comes out. And who the hell knows what Indike and Khan know, right? The lawyer and the accountant. I would have to believe that they have some sealed indictments waiting for them. And if anyone can connect people like Leon Black and Jess Staley, et cetera, to Jeffrey Epstein, it most certainly will be Indike. Clients who for years enjoyed some of the best returns on Wall Street are reconsidering their ties to Apollo amid renewed scrutiny over Epstein, spurred by a New York Times report earlier this month and given fresh attention from an unsealed deposition of Epstein co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag and bipedal serpent, Ghislaine Maxwell. So again, remember, as these documents dump, every single time we get a document dump, it renews interest in this case for the Unsullied. And every single time there's a document dump, people like Leon Black are in severe jeopardy of facing repercussions for the first time, even if they're just societal repercussions at this point, like Dubin has faced, and Wexner, and Prince Andrew. But Leon Black and his Apollo Global is such a powerful force in the investment world that it will literally shake the whole entire foundation of Wall Street if this guy can be connected to Epstein criminally. Investors distancing themselves from the firm show how serious the issue has become for Black and his general partners. Some clients aren't convinced that the review, which will be handled by law firm Deckert LLP, will be enough to clear Black's name, according to people familiar with the matter. Yeah, no shit. Isn't that what I said earlier when we were talking about this? The so-called independent reviews that all of these people like to kick into gear, nobody believes that. And if you're an investor with Leon Black and you're one of these guys that's throwing big money around, you have to be sitting in your house right now, shaking your head and being completely and utterly disgusted. This is supposed to be a safe place for your money, a place where you get huge returns. But instead, what we see is Leon Black is just another disgusting, scummy member of so-called polite society, and he's being put on blast for everybody to see. A freeze in new money could hurt Apollo at a time when it's trying to raise $20 billion for several new funds. The pandemic-spurred turmoil in the credit markets is a prime investing opportunity for the firm, which is known for buying struggling businesses. You know what that's code word for, folks? Transfer of wealth. That's what it means. When your shop, your mom and aunt's shop, can't afford it anymore, well, guess who swoops in? Mr. Dickhead, Leon Black, and people just like him. And before you know it, the whole entire world is run under a corporatocracy. That's where we're headed, folks. Who has more power than these business people? Certainly not our politicians. These business people, the ones who write the checks, these people on Wall Street, these disgusting animals basically is what they are, right? The way they conduct themselves. These are the people who are in charge of it all. Apollo is seeking to take advantage of market dislocations as well as invest in private debt, people with knowledge of the matter said in April. Yeah, so they want more debt slaves. They want to take advantage of this pandemic and shift more wealth up to the top, just like Bezos and just like the rest of them. Are you not sickened by this yet? Haven't you had enough of a very small handful of people making all the rules in the whole entire world for all of us to follow while they themselves follow no rules? I know I'm tired of it, folks. I am real tired of it. And I can't wait for the day where the pitches and where the pitchforks and the torches finally realize that the man behind the curtain that's getting them agitated to hate themselves is really the enemy. Black's growing troubles reflect the changing politics of the investing world, where major funds have become more sensitive to environmental, social, and governance matters. No, they haven't. They faced more pressure. That's all it is. They haven't turned over a new leaf. They don't all of a sudden care about the environment. They don't care about any of it. They care about making more money. And at this point, transferring your wealth to them. The new focus means that even the prospect of lucrative returns may not be enough for a lure in the midst of a scandal, and it shouldn't be. Have some pride. Have some effing pride. Go park your money somewhere else. There are plenty of people in town, plenty of people in the world that can manage your money. You don't need to be running around with Jeffrey Epstein, and now you certainly don't need to be putting your money with Apollo. Why would you? While performance is always going to be an important factor, increasingly it's not the only factor, said Gerald O'Hara, an analyst at Jefferies Financial Group Incorporated. In some respects, there's some willingness to sacrifice performance for a company that's run with good governance, good ethics. In the long run, that pays off, folks, all right? In the long run, if you're doing business the correct way, you're not shitting on people, you're managing their money correctly, you're not hanging out with pedophiles, in the long run, that benefits you and your clients, especially considering, like they're saying here, in this new environment. Not only are we talking about, the environment where people are worried about the environment, et cetera, now, with the FinCEN files breaking and the fact that people are starting to finally pay attention to what went on in the financial sector, what goes on in the financial sector, people like Leon Black and these big investors, they better watch their ass because we're paying attention now. We're not sleeping anymore. We are wide awake and we are tuned in. Investment advisor Axia told clients not to give new money to Apollo, Bloomberg reported Friday, while Connecticut said it is halting new investments with the firm. It's huge. These are huge deals. And what it does, it shows other investors, they take a look and they're like, oh shit, Pennsylvania's out, Connecticut's out. Axia is no longer saying that we should put our money here. So it becomes a real big serious situation. And that's what's coming, folks, down the pipe. Apollo is in serious jeopardy here. Earlier in the week, the Pennsylvania Public School Employees Retirement System said it would stop making additional investments in Apollo for now, and consultant Cambridge Associates is considering not recommending the firm to its pension and endowment clients. And now let's remember, Cambridge is responsible for like $410 billion in investment money. So if they're not parking it with Apollo, that's a huge clip. So yeah, the investors are panicking. Yeah, Leon Black is shitting his pants. And guess what? He should be. While Black faced pressure in the immediate aftermath of Epstein's arrest last year, investor angst was rekindled by a New York Times report that he had wired at least $50 million to Epstein after his 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a teenage girl. It's so ridiculous, and it just goes back to how bad things happened in Florida. To let him walk around with just that charge is it's beyond the pale. He should have been slapped with a pedophile charge, pedophilia, child abuse, all of it. And the only reason he wasn't is because his good friends in the state prosecutor's office, Barry Krischer and company, worked hand in hand with his lawyers to make sure that didn't occur. And that, my friends, is one of the biggest impediments in this case. The way that 2008, the first arrest was handled, is a huge roadblock in getting justice. But it's not a roadblock that can't be passed, obviously. Just take a look at what's going on down in the SDNY. The article didn't accuse Black of breaking the law. Apollo shares have fallen about 12% since the story published on October 12th. We are firmly committed to transparency, Apollo said Friday in a statement, noting that Black has been communicating regularly with investors. Although Apollo never did business with Jeffrey Epstein, Leon has requested an independent outside review regarding his previous professional relationship with Mr. Epstein. And I don't believe that Apollo never did business with them. Why should I believe that? Again, if Epstein has the keys to the kingdom, if Epstein's running around in charge of everything, why would Jeffrey Epstein not have anything to do with Apollo? I thought he was advising. I thought he was in charge of advising Leon Black on financial matters and estate planning. You mean to tell me that had nothing to do with Apollo, huh? Sorry, I don't believe it. It will be tough for investors to cut ties completely with Apollo, as private equity funds typically lock up capital for years, a trade-off many are willing to make with the promise of high-flying returns. And unless the inquiry unearths something more damning, clients may ultimately decide to look the other way, said 3 investors who asked not to be identified. Yeah, the scumbags of the group, right? There's always going to be scumbags of the group, people who don't think he did anything wrong, people that might even be involved in the same shit on the side and we don't even know about it. Because again, folks, at this point, do you trust anybody from so-called polite society? I know I don't. Not one of them. They've all proven to be at the very least enablers to one of the largest child abusers, child traffickers in the history of our country. It's particularly unappealing for clients to pull away given the firm's stellar returns. Apollo's flagship private equity fund, which opened to investors in 2001, has delivered annual gains of 44%, Bloomberg reported in January. Look, it's a big return, right? There's no doubt about it. We can't deny the fact that Apollo, as far as business goes, has been very successful at what they do. That's not even in dispute. The fact that they were in business with Epstein, though, the fact that Leon Black has not been very truthful about it, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. And even with 44% returns, a lot of these investors who are in charge of public pensions for sure are going to be looking to abandon ship. But even yield-starved investors looking to pump more money into private equity may choose to go elsewhere in the future as rivals flood the market with new offerings. That's how the market works, right? One company is great for a long time and then their downfall comes and then another company swoops in. That's how the market works. That's how the market corrects itself. That's why I've never been a big fan of too big to fail. Yeah, you know, the whole run through the Obama administration about the banksters, nobody went to prison, yeah, that whole entire ordeal. The too big to fail people. It's a very competitive race for capital, and one thing that we continue to see in fundraising is it is in many ways more similar to a political process than a capital raising process, said Sarah Sandstrom, partner in Campbell Lutyens, which helps private equity firms raise money. You are telling your story, creating relationships with investors. Well, if that's the case, and that is the way that these financial institutions are moving and places like Apollo are moving the direction, then people like Leon Black and those who worked with him at Apollo and helped in whatever way they might have, they don't have much time left in the industry, right? If things are going to be changing like they say they are, which I have my doubts, obviously, I think that people like Leon Black, for the first time ever in history, pretty much, folks, are in serious jeopardy of finally having to pay the price for their actions. How long have we seen people like this guy, Leon Black, and others find a way to avoid the spotlight, find a way to avoid any sort of publicity? Well, when you hang out with Jeffrey Epstein, especially after his conviction, and you move $50, $75 million back and forth, the time for you to remain in the shadows is over. And the time for you to be exposed as the scuzzbag you are is now upon us. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to everybody who has donated to the show via PayPal or the GoFundMe, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. All right, everybody, I'll be back later on.